Good morrow to you, friends. It's me, Anthony Lacascio. Welcome back to the Mr. Sitter Show. This is episode 8. This is show number 5 of the World Cup round, and we have finally reached the end of match day 1 of the group stage. And finally, we saw something that was worthy of the mantle of the World Cup appellation, but we will get to that in a little bit because I want to talk about some business before we crack into these matches that I was up all night watching for you guys. First of all, something that happened in the last few days that I think is worth talking about is that Denmark, the FA from Denmark have publicly stated that they have been in talks with the other Scandinavian FAs about potentially leaving FIFA, which, hey, good guys, Denmark, that'd be sick. That would be great. If somehow Denmark could coalesce all the other Scandinavian nations and then maybe 5 or 6 other big boys of Europe to effectively do a Frexit, a fifth exit. There's a better Brexit pun to do with FIFA, but that would be amazing. It would be the opposite of the Super League. It would genuinely probably save football from the swamp of corruption that it has been mired in for so long. But it ain't gonna happen. There's too many national team FAs that line the pockets of FIFA and vice versa. So that's not going to happen anytime soon. But it's a good idea. This World Cup has just been one PR disaster after another for FIFA, including the whole captain's armband, the pride armband thing. It just seems like to take a neutral position on it is one thing. To outright ban it or to say that there will be punishment for it is offensive, and it's something that kind of flies counter to the LGBT community. So they're the clear bad guys here, and it's going to take a little bit more than Germany covering their mouths to combat that. Speaking of that, they interviewed Eden Hazard about it, and Eden Hazard was like, yeah, they did that, but then they lost. So we prefer to let our football do the talking, which is pretty funny because Eden Hazard hasn't had his football. Like, his football's been mute for a few years now. So maybe he should have, maybe his comments should have matched that because, he shouldn't be the one talking about your football doing the talking. But a few nations last night did let their football do the talking. So let's crack into it because I've got a lot to say about at least 3 of the matches from last night, starting with Switzerland versus Cameroon. Switzerland versus Cameroon ended 1-0 to Switzerland. The goal coming from Breel Mbolo, who is, of course, born in Cameroon, did a very respectful, muted, not at all celebration. And I can imagine that it was quite an emotional goal for him to score. A lot of things made me laugh in this game. First of all, I love it when they do the national anthems, how they have that little intro. They have a little musical instrumental intro in the lead up to it before the camera pans and they start singing, which usually isn't part of the national anthem. The Swiss one sounds like Happy Birthday to You. Next time, if you turn it on, this, I can't imagine many of you guys are going to be watching any Switzerland games other than maybe the Brazil game. But if you do, listen out for Happy Birthday. And if it's your birthday, hey, enjoy it. Maybe blow some candles out to it. That was fun. It's good to see Xherdan Shaqiri. Him being in the starting lineup, for me, doesn't bode too well for Switzerland, to be honest, because that guy's a bit past it playing in the MLS. But it is always wonderful to see that man's calves. They're just chunky, they're thick, they're beautiful, those calves. They've helped him to score quite the array of wonder goals in the last few tournaments. We didn't get one of those today, obviously, because this is the World Cup of no wonder goals, but we'll speak about that in a minute. But yeah, always good to see that man's lower body. But speaking of lower bodies, I did not realize how thick Brentford's Brian Mbeumo is. That guy has a juicy caboose. He went to take a corner early in the first half, and I was like, damn, son. And speaking as a fellow half centaur, I was wildly impressed. I don't know if Cameroon's uniforms are a lot tighter than Brentford's, but man, you could really notice his ass. Of course, Mbeumo decided about 2 weeks ago that he was Cameroonian. I thought he was French this whole time, but here he is being man of the match as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I actually can't remember who they awarded man of the match to for this game, but for me it was Mbeumo. He deserved to be on the winning side, and he wasn't, because Cameroon, they were a bit unlucky. They played well, but the Swiss were in control for most of the match. The Swiss would occasionally allow Cameroon to counter them. They left themselves vulnerable to counterattacks, but Cameroon had the pace, but not the quality to exploit any of these counterattacks. And unfortunately, yeah, they went down to a one goal, which came out of not nothing. The Swiss had been pressuring, but fuck, the defending on Breel Mbolo's goal. So it was created by Vargas. Vargas made a run down the right, crossed it in, and Nicolas Nkulu, played for Torino a few years ago, played for Lyon, been in Cameroon set up for ages. Like the most dog shit marking I've ever seen in my life. He was just in no man's land. He was marking nobody, and the ball fell straight to Mbolo, and Mbolo had 2 seconds to set himself and take the perfect finish. That's not going to cut it at this level, and I think Cameroon, I predicted it before the World Cup, and today's evidence didn't make me change my mind. I think Cameroon are really, really going to struggle, and they did today in a lot of respects, and at this point, still, no African team had so much as scored a goal at this World Cup, at this point. So then we moved on to Uruguay, South Korea, which was the 4th 0-0 draw of the group stage so far, and match day 1 hadn't ended yet. And I don't want to talk about this game much because it was shit. It was really bad. There was one shot on target throughout the whole game, and I think a lot of people, not myself, but a lot of people were overrating Uruguay coming into this. We are taking our sample from the past few tournaments. I think Uruguay have been riding high on a few years of really, really good talent, and for whatever reason, they seem to still be relying on that talent. You know, you've got great young players coming through. I think Darwin Nunez is a really good player. My dear departed Rodrigo Bentancur can do a job in midfield, and of course Fede Valverde is one of the best midfielders in the world, and he proved it today. He basically carried Uruguay through this game. But that little cluster of young players is peppered with Suarez, Cavani, Godin, Martin. I couldn't believe I had to see Martin Caceres again. I thought I would never have to see Martin Caceres again. I'm so fucking sick of Martin Caceres. He played for Juve 3 times, and he was good on 2 of those occasions. But after he left, I thought, I'm so sick of this fucking guy. I don't want to ever have to see him again. I thought there's no way he's going to be in Uruguay's World Cup squad, and there he is starting the first match against South Korea. I'm so fucking done with him. One guy who wasn't there, which blew my mind, was Oscar Tavares. I had no idea that Oscar Tavares wasn't coach of Uruguay anymore. He was coach of Uruguay for 15 years. He stopped coaching last year. I researched that. I didn't know. So he's been the coach since, what? 2006. Since 2006, he's been their coach. And him not being there, like I saw whoever the Uruguay coach is, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? That blew my mind. But nothing else about this game blew my mind at all. There's nothing much to say about Korea. Son didn't do too much, but we know on his day he can make the difference. And the only thing that I found noteworthy was that the entire backline and the goalkeeper for South Korea, they were all called Kim. That's it. That's all I got for this game. It sucked. And that's kind of been a theme for this World Cup, but we'll rant about that in just a moment, because next up we have Portugal, Ghana, which was another pretty bad match, which turned into a great match. For about 60 minutes, this game sucked. This game was very, very similar script to a few of the other games where you've had a clearly over-fancied team against the team that have kind of just sat back and tried to absorb that team. And eventually the goals came, and when they came, they came. I noticed before the match, in the tunnel, Pepe, who surprisingly started on the bench, I thought he was going to start next to Ruben Dias, but they ended up going with Danilo Pereira. He's high-fiving all the kids, the mascots. Now, it's very weird for somebody who is made up of pure, evil, black hole energy to be high-fiving children. I assume that he eats children. I assume that's how he gets. That's why he's still playing at like 40 years old. His blood is thickened by the blood of the children that he eats. So I can only imagine that high-fiving was a scouting mission. He was doing recon for his next meal. During the national anthem, Cristiano smiled, and it was a weird smile. Cristiano smiled like he knew this was the last dance for him. And I genuinely think it is. I think he's going to retire after this tournament. I don't think anybody's going to pick him up, and I think he's going to retire after this tournament. And something about that smile indicated to me that I might be right. Portugal took total control from the beginning, like 75% possession for most of the first half. Couldn't break Ghana down at all, though. The penetration just wasn't there. Ghana were defending really, really strong for most of this game. And then Alex Scott, the commentator, who she's fantastic. She's genuinely one of the best commentators out there. She notices things that most people don't notice. Like, it's very rare. You hear Peter Drury and you just think what he's saying is just poetic. You hear Martin Tyler and it's just warm because it's nostalgia. But you hear Alex Scott and she notices things that make you go, okay. Like, she's like, her football IQ next level. But she said something fucking stupid in this. She said that Portugal will be looking to win some set pieces and free kicks because we know that Cristiano Ronaldo can be deadly from those situations. Let me tell you something, guys. For 3 years, I would wake up routinely at 2 a.m. in the morning to watch Juve, exclusively sometimes to see Cristiano Ronaldo fire free kicks into the wall. I don't know what Alex Scott is referring to as far as his free kicks are deadly, unless, of course, she was talking about them being deadly to the unborn offspring of the opposing defenders that are in the wall because of Cristiano's propensity these days to fire it straight into their nutsack. So I did not like that piece of commentary whatsoever. What I did like was watching Mohamed Kudus play for Ghana. I've seen this guy play for Ajax this season. He looks like the potential to be, Ghana's next generational player. He's really, really good. He's been linked with Juve, but then so is Vegeta, so it doesn't really mean too much. But I wanted to get a look at him because I did say in the preview for this World Cup that I think he's good, but he's extremely raw. And I was proven to be right in this match. Before the match, they interviewed him and he said, Neymar is not a better player than me. He's just a more high-profile player than me, and that will change. So the confidence on this guy, love it. And the confidence, you could see it in this game. He created a lot for Ghana. He also fouled a lot for Ghana. Got a few yellow cards. Not a few. He got one yellow card. He was he committed a few yellow card worthy fouls. Let's just say that. And he was all over the place. He had the assist for Ghana's goal, which was put away by Andre Ayew. More on him in a minute. And he hit this one absolutely electric shot that was parried by Diogo Costa, the Portuguese keeper. And I'm interested to watch Ghana. Fuck me, man. I need some sleep. I'm interested to watch Ghana moving forward purely to see Kudus play a little bit more. So that assist came after Portugal had taken the lead through a penalty, and there was just such an inevitability about, of course, to break the deadlock, Portugal were going to get a penalty, and of course, it was going to be Ronaldo to get Portugal off the mark in this World Cup to be the only player in history that scored 5 goals. That scored in 5 different World Cups, of course, man. And I just hated it. I hated that. I hated the inevitability. I hated the foregone conclusion that granting that penalty to Ghana was. And when he scored, the look on his face was like, see, guys, don't fucking doubt me. And I'm just like, I hate him so much. And I love him so much. He's just a god. He's an institution. He's a force of nature. We'll never see anything like him again. And honestly, if you said to me that he guides this Portugal team to win this World Cup and then retires, I'll sign off on it. You got to hand it to this guy. The youngest ever Portugal goal scorer at a World Cup. the oldest ever Portugal goal scorer at a World Cup. He's the fucking man. But then Ghana somehow equalized. I thought once Portugal went 1-0 up, Ghana would open up, try and score, and then they would, Portugal would just hammer them. But Ghana scored. Kudus, hit a kind of weird cross into Ayew. Ayew scores. And before that, you kind of guessed that the stadium was on Ghana's side. I mean, there's been a lot of African support in this World Cup, and you kind of guessed that the stadium was on Ghana's side because after Cristiano's goal, the stadium was just totally deflated. You saw the camera cut to Sully Muntari and Yaya Toure sitting in like these cool suits, sitting next to each other in these chairs. They just looked bored as fuck, man. But that changed when Ghana scored. The stadium erupted. There was a guy, full Ghana uniform, like a Ghana hat, Ghana jersey, Ghana wristbands. The fattest, whitest man with glasses ever. I don't know where this guy came from, but fuck yeah. The global game, guys. And then, Ghana scored, and you're thinking, wow, okay, we got a game here. What's going to happen? Now, I knew what was going to happen because when I saw the starting lineup for Portugal and I saw that Rafael Leao was on the bench, I thought this is a great idea because we've got a contingency plan here for Portugal. We're going to put Rafael Leao on towards the end of the game if we're not absolutely thrashing them at this point, and he is just going to run those tired legs ragged. So I knew that he was going to put Rafael Leao on as soon as they scored the equalizer, and so he did. And the commentator, man, the other commentator that wasn't Alex Scott, I don't know who he is, but he can get fucked. He's the worst commentator. He was calling him Rafael Leo. Tell me you don't watch Serie A without telling me you don't watch Serie A. Called him Rafael Leo a few times and then did another gaffe in a few moments that I'll tell you about. Leao comes on, but he wasn't needed for the 2-1. The 2-1 was scored pretty soon after by João Felix, and the funniest part about it was that Ayew had scored, and Ayew it was just tap in, but he full I'm the fucking man celebration, and then they pulled him off. And he's on the bench, high-fiving everybody, yeah, boys, I've done it. I've earned the point for us. Don't worry about it, to the point where he didn't see Portugal retake the lead. He's still high-fiving guys. And then he turns around and he's like, oh, what happened? Yeah, sucked in Andre Ayew. Sucked in, man. You fucking idiot. And then Portugal scored again to make it 3-1. Rafael Leao's first ever World Cup touch ends in a goal. You just what a footballer, man. The run starts. So Bernardo Silva brings the ball through the midfield. Leao is behind him when he starts running. Leao starts sprinting down the left. One of the Ghana defenders, I think the right back, got in his way and halted his run, probably purposefully. But this guy is so fucking fast that even with the run being halted, he gets around him, sprints, catches up, and manages to get past the defense at the perfect moment. Could not have beaten the offside trap any better. First touch, curls it in. The guy is smiling, ear-to-ear grin before he's even touched the ball for this goal. He scores. Amazing. And this isn't Serie A bias in me saying this. This guy is going to be a prime-time player. Full stop. Okay? And then Ghana scored again. Somehow Ghana scored again to make it 3-2. Bukhari scored. Don't know who Bukhari is. Hadn't heard of him before this game. He scores. Does the Cristiano celebration. Big balls. I hope Cristiano gave him his shirt after the game. And then when he scored, the commentator that I don't know who he is, the dickhead, was like, Jordan Ayew! And I'm like, it's not Jordan Ayew, man. I'm sure he's not racist, but way to prove the opposite, you know? And the game ended 3-2, but it very easily could not have been. Spare a thought for Inaki Williams. I love Inaki Williams. Inaki Williams has, I think, the all-time European top 5 leagues record for most consecutive games played without missing one for Bilbao. Him and his family they walked across the desert to escape. He was born in Ghana. They walked across the desert to escape war, and then they settled in Spain. And now he's representing Ghana. His younger brother Nico, who's an amazing player, is representing Spain. and Inaki Williams was leading the line for Ghana. He worked so hard. He's a pretty good player, and towards the end, there was an attack. Ghana had an attack. Diogo Costa collected the ball, kind of like time wasted, hung onto the ball, like moved the players around. Didn't realize that Inaki Williams was standing right behind him, and when he rolled the ball onto the floor, Inaki Williams charged forward and like collected the ball off Diogo Costa. But the poor guy was so tired because he was working so hard all game that he slipped and he couldn't finish the chance, and the game ended 3-2. Had he not slipped, like, we're talking about 3-3 here, and that would have been amazing. But the game was amazing, at least for the last 25 minutes. It looked like it wasn't going to be, but thankfully it was. And looking forward, so I had predicted that Uruguay would go through with Portugal, and I think in all likelihood they probably still will. They overall have more quality than the other two teams. But Portugal are going to beat every single team, and I honestly think that Korea, Ghana, and Uruguay all have the same chance of getting through, probably, because they're all shit. They all suck. They're not going to go. None of these teams are going to go far in this tournament, and that's just how it is. Directly after Portugal, Ghana, I couldn't help but think this World Cup has been pretty shit. I mean, the World Cup is the World Cup is the World Cup. It's always going to be great inherently, but this World Cup just hasn't been magical yet. By this point in other World Cups, it's been magical like 4 games in. We've had 15 games, no golazzos at this point, no goals from outside of the box. In the first 16 games in the 2006 World Cup, I think there had been about 40 goals from outside of the box. And yes, I'm aware that I'm the old man talking about my era being the best era. Sue me, that's what's happened to me. No goals from direct free kicks yet. No goals from corners. No teams have put on absolutely scintillating performances where they've just been super good. And I include England and Spain in that because 7-0 and 6-2 are not. They're not indicative of a good football game, okay? That's not a good football match. That's not the gladiatorial back and forth, drama-filled match that we want to see. When a team's winning 7-0, that means something's gone drastically wrong. And I'm telling you, the only reason why it was fun to watch the goals, but they were not good games of football, okay? Costa Rica, Qatar, and Iran have put on 3 of the worst performances I've seen at a World Cup in my entire life. And all that we've had to click onto so far in this World Cup is that Saudi Arabia and Japan pulled amazing upsets. But other than that, it hasn't been a great World Cup so far. And I can't see it turning around too much. But we were granted hope. In this final game of the day, Brazil versus Serbia. This is the game of this first round of group stage matches that I was looking forward to seeing the most, because I think Brazil are going to win the whole thing. And Serbia are the team that I am supporting. They're the team that I'm getting behind the most. And it was a really, really entertaining game. The first thing that I noticed was Alisson's porn stash. Just so off-putting, so yucky to look at. I mean, his beard is majestic when he wears it normally. I don't know why he decided to go with this porn stash, probably as a weird distraction for his opponents. And sure, go for it. They're going to win this World Cup because of his porn stash. His porn stash is to this World Cup what Ronaldo's arrow haircut was to the 2002 World Cup. They're going to win it, guys. They're going to win it. But that's not to say that Serbia didn't pull up. They pulled up. They lost 2-0. The second half, it could have been a lot worse. But the first half looked really good for them. And it could have been better. You know, they had Filip Kostic injured. Filip Kostic is really rounding into form for Juve. He takes up the entire left-hand side of the pitch. And whoever was playing left wing back for Serbia today, just not as good. So hopefully he comes back to make enough of a difference against Switzerland and Cameroon. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, who is, on his day, Serbia's best player by far. One of my favorite midfielders in the world. He was shit today. There's no other way to slice it. He was terrible. He gave the ball away quite dangerously twice within the first 20 minutes. Didn't do anything particularly incisive. And just wasn't at the races today. And that can't happen again because they're going to really need him to step up. if they're going to do the damage that I think they're going to do. But thankfully for Serbia, the other Milinkovic-Savic, his younger brother, was fucking great. Vanja Milinkovic-Savic in goals for Serbia. I didn't think that he would be the starting goalkeeper. That guy who plays for Sevilla I thought would start, but he started, and kudos to him. He had a great game. Honestly, I've watched Vanja Milinkovic-Savic play plenty. He plays for Torino. I didn't know he was this good, and he's not that good, but he just had one of those World Cup games where he was excellent, much better than he normally is, and really, really good to see him having a great game. The other player that I was really impressed by was Fiorentina's Milenkovic. Milenkovic, for the most part, was responsible for Serbia being really defensively strong in the first half. He's big, he's tall, he's fast, he's skillful. For the most part, he was really, really good. There was one moment in the second half where Brazil were really ramping it up, where it was like a 2-on-2, but one, like the other defender was way out there, and he slid in and took the ball off Vinicius. And no, it wasn't Vinicius, it was Richarlison, and then Vinicius eventually like scuffed his shot. Amazing. There was one really funny moment where Vinicius himself made a breakthrough, and it looked like Milenkovic had the ball under control. And he went to kick it over his head, but he ended up kicking it into his own face, and header through balling it to Vinicius, who just missed as well. But Milenkovic was really, really good. But Brazil are the real deal, guys. Brazil are going to win this tournament. This was as complete a performance as anybody has had in this World Cup, and I include Spain and England in that. This was the consummate, we're going to win this tournament performance. Neymar had this look on his face during the anthem and before the game. So serious, so focused, and I haven't seen that on him before. He had a really good game. One of my idiot mates in the group chat was like, I'm not impressed with Neymar. This is an opinion of somebody that remembers Neymar being this mohawk, weird hairstyle left winger who is only good to take on players. This is not what Neymar is anymore, especially for this Brazil team. He's morphed into a hard-working, playmaking number 10, and he did a great job today. He worked hard. He started a lot of attacks. It looked like he got a little bit injured towards the end, but nothing serious. And if they're gonna win, he's gonna be really, really good. I thought he was good today. Thiago Silva and Marquinhos at the back were so good. Danilo, so good. And those two centre-backs, they were basically deep playmakers for Brazil the whole game, which is why they can get away with playing Neymar in that midfield along with Casemiro and the packet, Lucas Paquetá, who wasn't particularly effective today. And it's almost like riding the bench at West Ham wasn't a good idea for him going into a World Cup year. They found it really difficult to break down Serbia in the first half, but equally, Serbia found it really, really difficult to break down Brazil, to get anywhere near them, because Brazil's press is amazing. Most of the time, so Serbia set up as 3-4-2-1 effectively. Brazil were winning the ball in between the second and third line almost every time because their press was just phenomenal, and you can tell why Richarlison and Rafinha in particular are the first names on this team sheet, because those guys' physicality and energy and ability to press is crucial to this team, and it was really, really good. And then in the second half, Brazil just ran away with it. They were way, way too good. Their quality was just too much for Serbia to be able to handle, which was a bit sad to see. Serbia kind of ran out of fight. But yeah, and the alarm bell started ringing from before Brazil even scored. Alexandro hit a shot so crisp that Martin Tyler literally yelled out Roberto Carlos when he hit it. It hit the post, and then it hit Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, but he was able to gather it. And I was so shitty because Alexandro has not produced anything remotely resembling that quality for Juve since about 2018. So that upset me. But what didn't upset me was Richarlison scoring 2 goals. The first one was like, it was a tap in. It was fine. But the second one was what gave me hope for this World Cup. Finally, we have a golazzo. Finally. It was, chest, overhead kick, 2-0, see you later. And from there, Brazil looked like they could have scored a few more times. Serbia wouldn't have been worth it to lose more than that. They deserved 2-0 was what they deserved. against the incumbent world champions. They're going to win the World Cup, guys. The last time they won the World Cup was 20 years ago on Asian soil. France are the defending champions. Real Madrid had won the Champions League the previous season. There's so much destiny about this. And if you need any more evidence as to why Brazil are going to win this, their depth is just fucked. No other team has this kind of depth. Maybe France if they had all of their players available, but they don't. So unlucky. Brazil's depth is outrageous. Serbia managed to bring on Dusan Vlahovic, who's been injured and is rocking a sick fade at the moment, which I think could be his downfall. I think he's got a bit of a Samson quality to him. The more he grew out his hair, the better he was. He's been injured recently, so he wasn't really able to do much. And weirdly, he was playing off Mitrovic, so he wasn't the number 9. He wasn't the prima punta. He was playing in a hybrid wing role, which did nothing for him. And other than that, they brought on a bunch of guys who play in pretty average Serie A teams. To counter that, Brazil brought on Gabriel Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, Fregi, Rodrigo, and Anthony. Prime time players, okay? It's ridiculous, the players that they brought on. And I just want to say how much I love Anthony. He did something. He played on the left wing, which I didn't think he did. He played on the left wing, and he did a 1-2 with, I want to say, Gabriel Jesus at one point. That was just delicious. Skinned the left wing back and took on Milenkovic pretty well. I love Anthony. And it's not just because he has a wonderful name. I really, really enjoy the flair, and I love some of the quotes that have come out from this guy. He grew up in the favelas. He grew up in the poorest, most dangerous suburbs of Brazil. And he said, in the favelas, football is everything. Football is your language. I've nutmegged drug dealers and murderers playing on the streets, so I don't have any fear at all in life. They asked if winning the World Cup and the Champions League and stuff like that are his dreams, and he said, no, they're my goals. I only had one dream, and that was to take my family out of the favelas. What a guy. I like him so much, and I hope that he has a wonderful career, and I think that he will, starting with a World Cup win for Brazil. I think, they're going to win it, guys. There's such an inevitability about this. They're really, really good, and nobody can touch them in this World Cup. And both these teams, having watched the 2 matches tonight, both of these teams, both Serbia and Brazil, aren't going to find it very hard to get past Switzerland or Cameroon, because both of those teams aren't on these teams' levels. I would like to see Serbia do really, really well. I had predicted that Serbia will go through second in this group and then meet Portugal and then knock them out. Having watched Portugal this morning, I don't know if that will happen, but it'll be a great rematch from the qualifying game when they do. It's a lock for me that it's going to be Serbia-Portugal in the round of 16. Let's look ahead. Looking ahead to the next few days, I just want to give a warning that on Sunday I'm going to be doing a late episode because I am going on Be In Sports to chat in the morning about the Australia-Tunisia game, which is on Saturday night, which SBS are insisting on calling a prime-time blockbuster. That's what they keep calling Australia-Tunisia. Now, it's prime time because it's at 9 p.m., but blockbuster, I watched Tunisia play against Denmark, and then I watched Australia get munched by France, and you heard my opinions on this Socceroos team. Primetime blockbuster, get your head out of your ass, SBS. We got some good games tonight, though. We got some good games tonight. We've got Wales, Iran, Qatar, Senegal, the Netherlands, Ecuador, and then England versus the USA. Predictions for this, I think Iran are going to turn it around. I think Iran are going to beat Wales, and Iran are going to make a statement that that first game was an anomaly and that they are actually a really good team. So I see Iran beating Wales. Senegal are going to absolutely mop the floor with Qatar because Qatar are neck and neck with Costa Rica as the worst team in this tournament, and everybody's going to tacitly enjoy it for what it means for the country of Qatar, but everybody, I hope, is going to feel bad for the players because they don't really deserve to be thrashed in the way they're going to be thrashed. And then the next 2 games that are absolutely delicious. We've got the Netherlands versus Ecuador. I'm so interested to see just how good this Ecuador side is, and this is going to be their biggest test. I would say that the Netherlands will win, but it's going to be real tight, and this is going to show if Ecuador can cut the mustard. I still think they're going to make it through this group ahead of Senegal. We'll see how they go. And then the final game is England USA, which is, hey, it's the colonizer derby. It's the wild west versus the wild Western Europe. You know what it is. I don't need a good metaphor for it. You know what it is. England USA. I think England are going to win 3-0. I think England are going to pulverize the USA, and they're going to make it really tough for the USA to qualify for the next round. They will have to beat Iran, which is going to be a Gulf War rematch. And Iran are going to beat them too, and Iran are going to go through with England. Enjoy the football, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, subscribe to the YouTube, please. I would love to get those numbers up on the YouTube. Even if you listen on Spotify or on iTunes, just go and subscribe to the YouTube. Just help the numbers for me. I would be endlessly appreciative if you did that. Tell your friends. A few people have messaged me saying that they specifically have told their friends. Mwah, love you. You're the best. And leave some comments. Let's get these posts moving. And yeah, be cool. Be cool. And enjoy the football.